Hey guys, tonight we slip into the smoky, sweltering depths of a Mughal palace kitchen. You're not in the throne room, not even close. You're back where the walls sweat, spices cling to your lungs, and no one dares speak above a whisper unless they're shouting over a boiling pot. You step into a world where the clatter of bronze pots competes with the murmurs of kitchen boys. The air is thick cardamom, turmeric, and slow-burning charcoal hang like a cloak over everything. Chickpeas simmer in copper cauldrons the size of bathtubs. Steam rises like incense. And somewhere, someone just dropped an entire tray of marinated quail legs and won't live it down this week. The cooks don't wear silk robes, they wear soot. Their fingers are blistered. Their names are unknown even to history. And yet, the emperors themselves once waited on them. You probably won't survive this shift, but the aroma, worth it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're listening from, and what time it is. I always love seeing the sleepy corners of the world you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your feet shuffle over hard-packed clay, slick with oil spills and crushed coriander seeds. You pass the threshold just as the last glimmer of daylight fades from the narrow ventilation slit above. The kitchen is lit, not by chandeliers, but by a swarm of flickering oil lamps. Their light trembles over long shadows and wide pots. This is the imperial scullery, hidden behind courtyards and corridors. Out of sight and mind unless the emperor is hungry. A copper ladle clinks against a rim. A raspy voice curses in Persian. Somewhere near the back, someone starts singing under their breath an old Punjabi folk tune that no one remembers the words to anymore. Just the rhythm. You're here at twilight, the most magical and dangerous time of day in a Mughal kitchen. This is when mistakes happen. When someone's hand slips in the dark oil. When someone forgets whether the Sultan ordered pomegranate sauce or saffron drizzle. And when secrets are easiest to overhear. You duck beneath a rack of hanging ladles each. One polished smooth by generations of grip hand. Find yourself next to the tandoor. It yawns open like a sleeping dragon. Its sides glowing orange hot. A boy no older than 12 leans in with a pair of long tongs, fishing out charred flatbreads stacked like roofing tiles. You nod at him, but he doesn't see you. His mind is on the burn mark, still fading from yesterday's mistake. Behind him, the kitchen master stands. Not a chef, no. No one uses that word here. This is the Bawarki Bashi, the head cook, a man whose word weighs more in this room than a governor's edict. His white beard bristles with flour dust. He paces in slow, tight circles, watching, muttering, tasting from spoons with the quick flick of a wrist. He doesn't look at you, but he knows you're here. You there. He barks at someone else. Did you add salt to the goat's tongue? Or are you hoping His Majesty falls in love with blandness tonight? You flinch. Not because of the shout, but because you've forgotten what's in the pot to your left. A thick red stew bubbles quietly, its surface shimmering with spiced oil. Whatever it is, it smells of cloves and quiet warnings. And then, from beyond the kitchen wall, you hear it. The distant, echoing thrum of Nakara's giant kettle drums. A sure sign that the emperor's court is closing for the day. Which means the feast must be ready. Now. The kitchen erupts. No fire alarms, no timers, just instinct. You lunge to the side to avoid a steaming tray of kebabs, rushed past by a sweating runner. A girl ducks under your elbow, balancing 3 bowls of chutney on a battered bronze platter. You catch the edge of one bowl with your sleeve, and thank the spice gods it doesn't fall. Then, all at once, a silence as sharp as a blade. The Bawarki Bashi lifts his hand. The workers freeze. He tastes a broth, pauses, smacks his lips thoughtfully, then waves the ladle like a scepter. Send it, he says. Relief breaks like dawn. Feet scramble again. A small army of servants sweeps in, lifting, loading, balancing platters of lamb and almond cream, pickled figs, rice flecked with gold leaf. Yes, actual gold. You don't ask how they can afford that. You're more focused on the girl beside you who just tucked a fried aubergine slice into her sash when no one was looking. She winks, you say nothing. This kitchen doesn't run on loyalty or obedience. A keet runs on rhythm. Keet on knowing when to move, when to hide, when to salt something a second time because the emperor likes it that way today, even though yesterday he screamed that it was too strong. Historians still argue whether the mules truly invented any original cuisine or simply absorbed what they found. North Indian, Persian, Turkic, local village dishes twisted into imperial elegance. But one thing is certain, the forgotten servants behind those dishes invented survival. Because behind every glittering dish served on jade plates was someone like you crouched by a fire. Fingers blistered, heart racing, praying the emperor doesn't notice the ghee is one day old. There's a saying in the kitchen, if your stew pleases the court, the Mir Bakawal nods. If it displeases, the emperor remembers your face. You stir something thick and green. You hope it's spinach. The steam singes your eyebrows a little. Across the room, two women slice pomegranates in complete silence, the sound of the seeds falling like soft rain. This isn't a kitchen built for names. No one introduces themselves. Names can lead to blame. Instead, there are nicknames.
Laddu
For the chubby boy who always sneaks sweets. Knife for the girl who cuts fish so fast her fingers blur. Chinny for the quiet one with sugar dust hair. And you, they're calling you Chapel. Slipper, because of the sound your sandals make when you shuffle too fast across the clay floor. You'll take it. Then, just when the kitchen starts to come after the dishes have left, and the silence returns, someone lights a new fire. Not for the emperor, not even for the nobles. This meal is for the cooks, the servants, the boys who cleaned copper all day, the girl with the burn on her wrist. It's humble lentils rice, the leftover bits of lamb, but it's hot, and it's enough. You eat with your fingers, you don't speak. You just listen to the pop of coals and the sighs of tired people who made a palace taste like paradise. And as the last bite melts on your tongue, someone leans over and says quietly, tomorrow, you get to help grind the saffron. You grin. And then too soon another drumbeat echoes in the distance. Another night begins. You're back. Same kitchen, same cracked clay floor, same scent of cumin in the corners, like a spice that refuses to die. Only this time, the chaos has a different rhythm. You're not just passing through tonight. No, tonight, you belong here. And you're about to learn who really runs this empire. Spoiler, it's not the emperor. The ones who can cook lamb 64 different ways and still know which version goes best with melancholy. The ones whose names never made it into poetry or palace records, but whose hands, burned and steady, made history taste like heaven. It's the ones who dice onions until their eyes swell shut. You stand shoulder to shoulder with a woman called Coconut, her real name, of course. Everyone in the kitchen gets renamed. Koki just means soft bread. She's older, always chewing fennel seeds, and she's been here since the days of Akbar, or so she claims. Honestly, you wouldn't be surprised if she was born from the smoke of this very kitchen. Each stone mortar is the size of a wagon wheel. He's doing it to impress someone, clearly. He trips. The poppets explode like crispy shrapnel across the floor. Koki just mutters, show off. Their rhythm is hypnotic. Thump, grind, pause, sniff, thump, again. You catch the scent of dried rose petals, peppercorns, fennel, cumin, and something sharp and citrusy that makes your nose twitch. For men lifted together, grunting, arms trembling as it sloshes dangerously close to spilling. You instinctively move out of the way. You're learning. He's a silent, towering figure who can debone a goat in under 6 minutes and never utters a word. You once heard someone say he was a failed noble who fell in love with a courtesan and got exiled to the kitchens. You doubt it? But still, what a backstory. She leans in and whispers, "They say the emperor weeps when his grandmother's biryani is made wrong." This one takes 6 hours, 11 spices, and one very suspicious black paste that no one will explain to you. Each blend they create is a guarded formula, passed down from master to apprentice, changed slightly with each hand. The real imperial recipe books. They're not written. Don't let the bottom burn. It sounds easy until the heat starts creeping up your arms and your hands feel like overcooked okra. They're whispered. One clove at a time. That's power, isn't it? To cook someone into tears. She's no older than 8. No one asks why she's working. She's just ... Here, like the mice that scurry underfoot or the cat who sometimes steals a scrap of fish. She loves dates soaked in rose water. So tonight, 5 different date dishes are being tested in her honor. If she smiles, great. If not, back to pickling. Tonight's lesson is clear. The imperial kitchen isn't just a kitchen. It's theater, it's politics, it's war, and at the heart of it, the forgotten cooks. You glance over and see an old man stirring a pot of lentils with one hand and holding a cloth to his mouth with the other. Someone jokes that now Mercury will go into retrograde. The others chuckle, even though none of them knows what that means. The heat makes your spine stick to your tunic. You smell of ginger and lamb fat and flour. Somewhere, a rooster crows. Wait, why is there a rooster? So now, tasters are being rotated. You spot one of them, pale, sweating, looking at his stew bowl like it just confessed to murder. No one notices. Or rather, no one comments. Illness is just another ingredient here. You pass by a row of silent figures grinding masalas by hand. These are the masala dars, the spice handlers, not cooks, not servants alchemists. Most agree it was a bit of both. But in this kitchen, knowledge doesn't live on paper. It lives in burned scars and muscle memory. Always, historians still argue whether the Mughal kitchens kept recipe scrolls or if everything was memorized and refined by instinct. You watch as a boy with a crooked smile balances a stack of poppet on his head. No one laughs. One is pink, floral, like drinking a garden. Another glows green with basil seeds floating inside like tiny orbs. No medals, no records. Just calloused hands and full plates. These are for the nobles, not the emperor. You're told their preferences change with the moon. One day, they want sweet. Next, sour. Then something that tastes like rain. Good luck with that. Then someone calls for the deg kitha, massive cooking pot used for meat, curries, and rice. Each worker here has a specialty. There's the rotawala, a wiry man with forearms like tree trunks, who flips bread on the walls of a tandoor without flinching. There's the buniwala, the spice toaster, who stirs dry seeds over fire until they begin to sing, and only he can hear the tune that tells him they redone. And then, of course, the meat master, not his title, but it fits. Tonight's assignment, lamb korma, not the watered-down version, you know. Your job is simple. Stir. Just stir. You ask what's in the paste. Koki grins and says, tears of Persian poets. And garlic. Helpful. Someone nearby coughs a thick, wet sound. Food, after all, must be served. You blink, and the sharbats arrive, cool, colorful drinks, each in tall glasses covered with cloth to keep out flies. Back near the cutting area, a small girl is zesting oranges. And through all of this, the kitchen listens. Gossip flows faster than gravy. One of the maids heard the emperor has a new concubine. Another rumor. A noble accused his rival of poisoning a dish. There's laughter too. Someone burned the rice again. Not a big pot, just the daily portion made for the court astrologer. He insists on having his lucky rice. You sit for a second on an overturned basket. Doesn't matter. Koki hands you a bowl of something brown and glistening. "Taste this," she says. You hesitate. "Don't be soft. If it kills you, we'll reuse your apron." You take a bite. Sweet, salty, spicy. A little burnt, but you'd eat it again. Maybe with less fear. "Good," she nods. "You'll do." And just like that, you're in. You belong to the quiet ranks of the Mughal kitchen crew. And tomorrow, if you're lucky, you might be trusted with saffron, or worse sent to make tea for the eunuchs. The fire crackles low tonight, but your arms are sore before the sun has even fully set. Rice duty sounds simple. Sounds gentle. Like a light, breezy job where you might daydream about mangoes or the coolness of a riverbank. Nope. Rice is sacred. Rice is power. Rice is politics, especially in a Mughal kitchen, where getting a single grain wrong could turn your life into a very short, very spicy memory. Koki greets you with a nod and tosses a bag at your feet. You open it, tanned, blink. The rice isn't all white. Some grains are long and pearly, some stubby and dull. A few have tiny cracks. One even has a little stone tucked among them like it's hiding from judgment. You've just been handed the emperor's dinner in embryo form. You're not washing it? Not yet. First, you sort. Yes, by hand. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat, a copper tray in your lap, and begin the slow, hypnotic ritual. Good grains to the left, broken ones to the right. Stone in a third pile. Why? You don't ask. You just do it. After your third hour, you stop questioning anything. Koki passes behind you and mutters, "Your piles are too polite." The rice doesn't care about your manners. You scowl. She's right. By the time you're done, the tray is neat, glistening like tiny ivory knives. You've sweated enough to fill a kettle. And now comes the washing. This isn't just rinse and go. No, this is a sacred rinse. A 7-stage process. First, cold water. Swirl, drain. Second, salt water. Swirl, drain. Third, rose water. Yes, rose water. Swirl gently with 2 fingers only. You pause. Really? A Koki nods. Even rice should smell like royalty, she says, eyes twinkling. Historians still argue whether these washing rituals were consistent across all Mughal kitchens or reserved for the higher courts. Some say the rice was perfumed even in lower noble households. Others think only the emperor's rice got the VIP spa treatment. But here, no one questions it. You cook it the way the ghosts like it. Once the rinsing is done, it's time to toast. You pour the glistening rice into a heavy-bottomed pot, greased with ghee. The smell shifts instantly from wet earth to something warm and golden. The rice hisses gently. It's a soft pop, like a secret escaping. You stir. You're always stirring. A servant named Junaid joins you. He's missing 2 fingers, but handles the spice box like a violinist. He sprinkles in a pinch of saffron soaked in milk. The yellow begins to bleed into the rice like a sunrise melting over marble. Don't stir too fast, he warns. You'll make it nervous. You pause, unsure if he's joking. He's not smiling. The final step is the slow cook seal. You place a cloth under the pot's lid, then seal it shut with dough. The heat must build and trap itself. The rice inside must steam in its own fragrant destiny. If you lift the lid too soon, all the magic escapes. Koki once told you of a cook who peeked, and the emperor declared him unlucky for 20 years. So now, everyone fears the peek. You set the pot aside like it's a sleeping baby. And then your reward. Koki hands you a small bowl of something sticky and beige. Taste it, she says. You sniff. Sweet rice again, but richer. Creamier. Kia, she explains. For the princess, you taste heaven, burnt milk, cardamom, pistachio, sugar. Rose, a little salty, a little smoky, and dangerously comforting. You glance back at the rice, still steaming in its sealed cauldron. It's hard to believe how many types there are, each one with its own tale. There's zarda yellow rice dyed with saffron and sweetened with sugar and raisins, served on weddings or whenever the emperor felt romantic, which, you've heard, was often. There's yakini pulak, cooked in meat broth until the grains carry the ghost of lamb in every bite. And then, the most feared, biryani. Not because it's difficult, but because it's dangerous. Why? Because everyone thinks their mother's version is correct, and the Mughal royals were no different. Persian wives wanted dried lime in it. Rajput queens wanted it spicier. Southern concubines wanted curry leaves, and the emperor. He wanted them all happy. You sigh. You're just grateful for plain rice. The pot hisses softly. The lid trembles, peers and sniffs the air. It's done. You reach for the lid. She slaps your wrist. Wait, let it settle. Rice has a memory. Of course it does. You sit back and watch as she finally peels away the dough seal. Steam blooms like a genie escaping captivity. The aroma hits you like a story being told through your nose. Warmth, spice, fat, perfume, comfort, maybe even a little sorrow. Each grain is perfect, not clumped, not wet, not hard, just floating. Independent, proud. You've done it, Koki smiles. You made rice, you blink. That's all. No applause, no crown. But then you realize this is the crown. She scoops some into a silver bowl, adds a sprinkle of toasted nuts, a ribbon of fried onion, a single petal from a marigold. And just like that, it's no longer rice. It's history. Off you go, she says. The emperor's fasting. This is for the princess. You watch the bowl disappear into the hands of a palace runner. He vanishes through a narrow corridor that leads into the gilded part of the world, the part where names do matter. But back here, in the quiet swelter, you know what just happened? You made something worthy of a royal plate. And even if no one remembers your name, the rice will. Later that night, as you sit near the tandoor, licking ghee from your thumb and watching the stars blink through the chimney shaft, Junaid leans over and says, "Tomorrow, you try biryani." You groan. He laughs. "It's fine. Just don't argue with the queen." It's just past midnight, and you're staring into a spice chest the size of a coffin. Carved teak, stained from centuries of oil, and absolutely bursting with tiny brass tins of powders and seeds. Some you recognize, most you don't. Koki stands beside you, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. "Choose 3, she says. You hesitate. Your fingers hover over the tins like you're picking tarot cards. One wrong move, and someone might lose an eyebrow or a job. You lift a lid. Cumin, safe. Second one, turmeric, even safer. Third, something black, sharp-smelling, like it might insult you if it could talk. Koki nods approvingly. Nigella seeds. Cheeky choice. You grin, a little proud. She smirks. Now do not mix them. Yet? Tonight is about learning the rules before you break them. And when it comes to Mughal spice blending, the rules are everything. Each servant in this room has their own set, their own ratios, their own whispered logic, and their own secrets, which they will not tell you, ever, like music. And each cook's garam masala was as personal as a fingerprint. One man swears he uses the stars seriously. He sniffs a spice and then glances at the night sky before deciding if it feels right. Rhythmic, like the kitchen's heartbeat. But the smell is the real show. Earthy cumin, bitter turmeric, and the peppery sass of nigella all dancing together like they're plotting something. And just when you think you're done, a shadow falls across your spice tray. Some keep folded papers in their sleeves. Some chant recipes under their breath while working like a culinary mantra. He drifts in sometimes from the perfumery next door, where oils and flower extracts are made for the royal baths and ceremonies. But sometimes, just sometimes, he donates a vial to the kitchen. Historians still argue whether Mughal spice blends had written standards or were passed orally. The truth, they were alive, shifting, evolving like language. You begin grinding with a mortar and pestle, and the sound is oddly soothing. Don't sneeze into the mix, someone calls from across the room. You already did. Too late. Koki waves it off. That's fine. A little nose in your blend builds character. You keep grinding. Your arms ache. Your shirt sticks to your back. It's the atarwala, and the resulting dessert made a noble woman scream. This tastes like my funeral. Yes, that's what they call him, the perfume man. He doesn't work here exactly. He uncorks one now. Jasmine, he says. Used in dishes for generals and warriors, meant to warm the blood and sharpen the senses. He offers you a sniff. You hesitate, then inhale. You crush, grind, mix, and test it on your tongue. It's floral, yes, but not delicate. It punches your senses. Like jasmine after a thunderstorm. You blink. Koki takes the vial. For the rice pudding, she says. Just a drop. Too much, and it tastes like soap. Only that it's used in desserts served to the older queens. You don't ask, she's right. You once overheard a servant say they accidentally used rose oil instead of rose water in a sherbet. She fainted. No one was fired. That time, you turn back to your spice tray. Extra fenugreek for the aging noble who thought it cured everything. Another time, alone, they mean little. Together. They write poetry or propaganda. A cook refused to share her mixture with a jealous concubine, and the concubine paid a spy to steal it. The blend was recreated. Rebellion. The cook was never seen again. Now it's time to blend. Just a spoonful. The pot bubbles, accepts it, transforms. The smell changes richer, bolder, like it's decided to take itself seriously. Whose nose couldn't stand the ghost of garlic. But this isn't for him. Her words hang in the smoky air like cardamom steam. Cooked in oil. This is for a late-night dish being sent to the astrologer's assistant. A wink. A flavor that says, we see you. You clean your hands with chickpea flour and a splash of vinegar, the only soap available. Your fingers smell like toasted cumin, not a bad perfume. All things considered, each combination has a name. Not an official one, but a whispered nickname. There's Sleepy King, a blend so mild it's for the emperor's late-night meals, when digestion matters more than drama. There's Swordmaker, heavy on pepper, cinnamon, and dried chili. And then there's Widow's Smile. No one tells you what's in it. Might be ready to invent your own spice code. You go with something simply: your cumin, turmeric, and nigella base. Spicy, earthy, slightly bitter. Not bad, Koki says. Call it beginner's regret. She grins and walks away. You add the mix to a pot of lentils. But here's the secret you begin to understand. It's not just about taste, it's about identity. Every Mughal household had its own blend. Even lower servants had preferences. A little more anise for the grandmother. No chili for the youngest son. You overhear an old tale from across the room. A kitchen servant once created a blend so beloved, the emperor demanded it be buried with him. Koki once told you spices were like letters. And sometimes, you hear the clink of a hidden tin. Someone sneaking in asafoetida. Forbidden for the emperor, a little petty defiance. Not all secrets in this kitchen are about poison. Some are just politely illegal, and that's when Koki tells you the real rules. There are only 3 blends in this kitchen that matter, she says. Eyes fixed on your pot. One that pleases the emperor. One that pleases his memory. And one that pleases no one but you. She walks away. Later that night, you fall asleep beside a sack of cloves. You dream of blending pepper and honey. You wake up with a recipe in your head, the feeling that you might. Morning again, but the sun doesn't reach this corner of the palace. You're kneeling beside a wooden barrel, wrists deep in a brine so sharp it could pickle your regrets. Your fingers sting. Your nose twitches. And behind you, someone just dropped a jar of lime and jaggery again. Welcome to the realm of the Wallace the Pickle Crew. Small, spicy, and always slightly sticky. Today's task: mangoes, buckets of them. Peeled, diced, and salted until they surrender. But don't get too comfortable, because here in the Mughal kitchen, even a humble pickle is never just a pickle. It's gossip, it's rivalry, it's warfare in glass jars. Watch your hand, someone grumbles behind you. One wrong stir, and the vinegar will eat through your nail. You flinch. Too late. Koki walks by, carrying a jar labeled only with a faded red ribbon. She doesn't even look at you, just mutters, "Do not touch the ginger mustard batch. It belongs to the eunuchs." They bite. You believe her. The pickle room isn't part of the main kitchen. It's an annex, cooler and damp. Earthen pots are stacked to the ceiling. Some sealed with wax, others with muslin cloth stained yellow from turmeric or purple from plums. You pass by one jar that looks like it's humming. You don't ask. Each jar is like a diary. Some dated, some not. Some opened once a year, some never. And the oldest one. It's rumored to have been started by a cook who died before Babur crossed the Khyber Pass. You don't touch that one either. The pickle team is its own society, a closed circle. Mostly elder women with hands permanently stained orange. And one sharp-tongued boy named Minchu, who swears he can identify 50 chutneys with his eyes closed. He challenges you to smell test a jar. You almost pass out. "Garlic and gooseberry," he says smugly. You were going to guess regret and fire. Pickling isn't just preservation, here it's prediction. Whole seasons are measured by which fruits are fermenting. Summer means mango. Monsoon brings turmeric root. Winter, time for carrots, radish, and bitter lime. And you quickly learn the real rule. Everyone has a favorite. The emperor loved sweet tamarind chutney. His sister preferred raw chili paste, so hot it once made a visiting Persian ambassador hiccup for hours. One noblewoman insisted her pickles be dried under moonlight only. Her servant would sneak the jars onto the terrace after midnight, whispering lullabies to them. You thought that was a joke until you saw her doing it? Historians still argue whether these pickling rituals were symbolic or superstitious. Some say the moon drying technique was for flavor. Others believe it was spiritual, but ask anyone in this room, and they'll just shrug. If it worked for her, it worked. And then there was the vinegar scandal. You first hear about it while helping Mintu layer a new batch of mango lean chili pickle. He's humming an old tune when he leans in and whispers, "Did I ever tell you about the vinegar fight?" You shake your head. He grins. 2 queens, 1 barrel, 1 splash. Apparently, the senior queen accused a younger rival of using the wrong vinegar in a family recipe, sharp cane vinegar, instead of the more delicate palm version. The result? A shouting match in the royal bathhouse, followed by 2 weeks of icy silence at court. And the pickle, it was delicious. You laugh, but Mintu just shrugs. It's never about the taste. He's right. It never is. Pickles carry memories. Politics, petty grudges, quiet triumphs. There's an old saying in the kitchen: you can't erase a bad day, but you can salt it and let it ferment. And so they do. You're soon promoted to the vinegar shelf, a dangerous honor. You didn't even know there were types of vinegar, beyond sharp and sharper. But here, there's date vinegar, sugarcane vinegar, tamarind vinegar, rice vinegar imported from the Bengal ports, and one ominous bottle simply marked Goa. You sniff it, instant regret. Koki laughs from behind you. Ah, the Portuguese poison, good for preserving lemon peel and scaring off pests. You ask if she means insects or nobles. She doesn't answer. Today's big task is the 3-fruit pickle, a luxury reserved for festival weeks. It includes mango, dried plum, and candied lime, all soaked in a syrupy blend of jaggery and spiced vinegar. Rich, complex, the kind of pickle that makes you squint after the first bite and then crave another. You stir it carefully. It bubbles slightly. It smells like heat and memory. Too much jaggery, Min warns. You add a dash of salt. He nods. Better, you're learning. But the real test, labeling. Each pickle jar must be marked not with a name, but with a mood. Some are tied with colored threads. Red for heat, yellow for sweetness, green for sour, black for handle with care. Some jars have carving stars, crescent moons, tiny suns. A language of signs passed down through kitchen generations. And of course, there are the pickle boys. They're the runners. Barefoot kids who deliver the jars through secret passages and back stairs. Trained to balance them on their heads, slip into noble rooms unnoticed, and leave behind little clay bowls of delight. A good pickle boy is invisible. A great one delivers the perfect chutney before the noble even realizes they're craving it. One day, one of them disappears. Ran off, someone mutters. To where, you ask? Koki snorts. With the Portuguese traders, probably. Hope he likes bland food. You laugh, then pause. Because now it's your turn. You're handed a sealed jar. No label, no scent. Just a wax stamp. Deliver this to the poet, Koki says. You blink. There's a poet. There's always a poet, she says. Go, and don't drop it. You weave through corridors, up narrow stairs, past humming guards and silent hallways. You finally reach a shaded balcony where a man in worn silk robes stares out at the garden, chewing a clove slowly. You set the jar before him. He doesn't look at you, but he murmurs, "Is it the chili fig?" You nod. He smiles. Good. That one helps me think. You walk back, unsure whether you've just witnessed magic or melancholy. Maybe both. Back in the pickle room, the jars have been covered for the night. Mintu is sweeping. Koki is humming to herself, stirring one last pot. The scent of garlic and mustard oil hangs in the air like incense. You sit, tired, stained, slightly acidic. You realize, no one applauds the pickle. But no feast is complete without it. And if someone remembers your blend, your salt, your vinegar ratio, that's immortality, in a jar. The moon hangs low tonight, swollen and pale, like a pearl resting on velvet. Most of the palace sleeps, but not you, not Koki, not the quiet ones who haunt the night kitchen the ghost shift. You roll dough in silence, the wooden pin gliding over soft flour, flattening each ball into a perfect circle. It's warm here, not just from the tandoor's heat, but from something quieter, older. This is the hour when the day kitchen hands retreat and the secret crew steps in. You've stumbled into the strangest shift of all. The moonlit roti makers. No official roster. No horns or bells. Just shadows, flickering lamplight, and the occasional lullaby hummed near the tandoor. A girl beside you brushes each roti with ghee and stacks them in a copper container lined with banana leaves. She doesn't say much, just offers a piece of sweet fennel candy after you burn your fingers again. She finally whispers, "This food's not for the living." You pause. Sorry. She shrugs. Well, not only, and just like that, you notice it. The odd rituals. The way some plates are set aside and never served. How a few dishes are made in perfect silence, no tasting, no adjusting, no flair. Just careful, measured cooking. As if following a script written in moonlight. These are the dishes for the ancestors. For the spirits. For those who once ruled, once cooked, once watched and now linger. You glance at Koki. She's moving with unusual stillness. Tonight, methodical, reverent. She gestures to a large pot of lentils. Not spicy, she says. The dead don't need fire. They just want warmth. You stir it gently. It's thick and mellow, barely salted. It smells like comfort, like something served after heartbreak or before goodbye. No one talks loudly. Even the tandoor seems quieter. The usual chaos of the kitchen has melted into slow, graceful rhythms. You're part of something sacred now, not just dinner. Remembrance? The ghost shift is made up of odd figures, retired servants, elderly cooks who nap all day and only rise when the stars do. One woman, Bibu Pei, claims she speaks to her mother every time she toasts cumin. No one laughs at her, 'cause the cumin always smells better when she's here. You're told these midnight meals began long ago under Emperor Humanon. When he died, legend says the kitchen kept preparing his favorite dishes every Friday for 40 days. Out of grief, out of habit, out of fear, maybe, no one stopped them. Eventually, it became a tradition. Now, no one remembers why, only that it must continue. Historians still argue whether this ritual was rooted in Islam, Hindu ancestor worship, or a hybrid of both. Some say it was superstition. Others believe it was practical leftover food used wisely. But the ghost shift. They don't care. They just cook. You press another roti flat against the side of the tender. It puffs beautifully. Golden, you smile, despite yourself. A boy places it beside a bowl of plain rice and stewed okra. "Who's that for?" You whisper. He shrugs. The old harem guard. Died during Holi. He liked okra. You wonder who remembers that. How they knew. The food for the dead is never spicy, never extravagant. No gold leaf, no saffron, no roasted peacock. Just quiet dishes. Milk, rice, soft breads, warm stews, lentils. Comfort food, graveyard food. And then, the most mysterious part. The disappearances. At the end of each night, a few plates, usually 3, are left on the marble windowsills of the eastern wing. No one touches them. No one watches, but by dawn, they're always empty. Every single time, even the chutney licked clean. You once asked Mintu if it was just the palace cats. He looked at you very seriously and said, "Then explain the fork marks." You didn't ask again. Tonight, you're tasked with a simple, sweet sheer korma. A creamy vermicelli pudding with dates, nuts, and milk. It's eaten during festivals, but tonight it's for someone long gone. You roast the vermicelli gently in ghee, stir in warm milk, add chopped dates, slivered almonds, a hint of cardamom. It simmers like a lullaby. The smell reminds you of something, but you can't place it. Koki watches over your shoulder. "No raisins," she says suddenly. He didn't like raisins. You blink. "Who?" She doesn't answer. You serve it into a small brass bowl. Place it beside a folded napkin. Then set it in a shadowy alcove beneath an old painting of a mustached man in regal robes. The man in the painting seems to be smirking. You move on. The rest of the night blurs roti, flipping dolls stirring. Laughter in hushed tones. The kitchen feels softer, older, less like work and more like memory. Someone tells a story about a cook who used to bake sweet buns for a lost prince. Every week, he'd burn one on purpose, so the prince can find his way by the smell. Chuckle, even though you don't understand. But when the last roti is flipped, and the lentils are covered, and the plates are placed gently at the window, you find yourself staring into the quiet, listening. You think you hear footsteps, or maybe it's just the wind. You yawn, then sit beside Koki as she wraps a cloth around her knees. She hands you a roti, the last one. You eat in silence. It tastes of smoke, ghee, and something you can't quite name. Remembered. And in that moment, you realize the ghost shift doesn't just feed the dead. It keeps the kitchen alive. You wake to the sound of metal clinking. Not violently, more like a whisper of iron against bronze. Rhythmic, slow. You sit up, spine sore, and realize you've slept beside the pickle jars again. Mintu left a blanket on you, probably out of pity. But the real action today isn't in the kitchens. It's out in the courtyard butchery, the open-air arena of blood, bones, and blades. Today, you're shadowing the Kasabs, the Mughal meat masters. You're not sure if it's an honor or a punishment. Either way, your job is simple. Stay upright, keep your hands clear, and try not to faint. You cross the palace courtyard just as the first goat is led in. It's quiet, not scared, just solemn, like it knows. The Kassab bows his head before lifting the blade. One swift motion. And then the real work begins. You've seen meat before. In pots, on platters, carefully chopped, marinated, cooked. But this is the anatomy of empire. Here, in the butchery zone, meat is broken down like music, note by note, muscle by muscle. There's no waste. Every tendon has a purpose. Every organ, a dish. The Kassab, whose name is possibly Sharif, works in silence. His blade sings. He's carving with the focus of a jeweler, pulling perfect cuts with shocking speed. You can't look away or breathe. The goats are destined for korma. The ox for slow-roasted kebabs. The pigeon, oh, that's for the emperor's mother. She claims pigeon soup restores the bones. You silently vow to never find out. Sharif hands you a liver. Take this to Bibi Doop. She know. You nod and scurry off, bowl in hand, hoping liver doesn't stain silk. You reach the kitchen, where Bibi Doop is already toasting spices in hot ghee. She takes the liver without a word, tosses it in the pan, and hands you a slice of mango to chew while she works. Your reward for obedience. But the real lesson of today isn't just how meat gets sliced, it's how it's treated. Mughal cuisine was obsessed with meat, but not just for volume, for status, texture, temperament. You learn that different meats were believed to affect the mood. Lamb, noble, soft, forgiving. Goat, earthy, complex, a bit cheeky. Ox, reserved for feasts of power-strong meat for strong statements. And camel, you don't even ask. You've heard rumors. Historians still argue whether certain meats were symbolic or just seasonal. Some claim the emperors preferred lamb because it was Persian. Others argue it was about fat content. One historian even said Babur banned beef out of political caution. But here in the kitchen, all that matters is who's eating what today. You return to Sharif in time to see the pigeon prep. He's slicing it into neat fillets, tiny and precise. He salts them gently. No marinade, just salt and smoke. You ask why? He shrugs. Queen's teeth are tired. Make sense? Nearby, a small boy is making Sikh kebabs, long spiced meat cylinders pressed onto skewers. He has a rhythm. Dip, press, twist, breathe. Dip, press, twist, breathe. You copy him, your first one falls apart. Your second one bends like a noodle. By the fifth, you get something almost straight. Don't let the skewer boss you, he says. Fair. The kebabs are cooked over coal, turned gently and basted with a mix of butter and crushed coriander seeds. The smell is enough to make your knees buckle. You steal a bite off a fallen skewer. It's heavenly, smoky, fatty, with a whisper of heat. You say a silent thank you to the ox that provided it. Later, you're invited to help with the Nali Niaria slow-cooked stew of marrow and meat. This is the big leagues. You simmer bones in a massive cauldron, watching as the marrow melts into the gravy. The scent is deep and dark, like the memory of thunder. A spice blend is added: clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, black pepper. And then, bone marrow is spooned on top like a sacred offering. You don't touch it, just stare. Koki appears. Don't fall in love, she warns. Aro doesn't love back. You stir it gently. No one speaks for a while. Then Mintu sidles up beside you. Want to see the weirdest dish in the kitchen? Obviously. He leads you to a small side room where two older men are stitching something. Stitching, you peer closer. They're sewing a whole goat skin shut, stuffing it with spiced rice, almonds, minced meat, dried fruits, and wait, that an entire chicken inside. You blink. It's an animal within an animal, within a bag of its own skin. Kuzi biryani, Mintu whispers. Or, as we call it, matryoshka goat. You're not sure whether to be impressed or alarmed. Maybe both. The dish is slow-cooked underground, sealed with clay, and exhumed like a treasure. Served only during major celebrations or when the emperor's in-laws visit. You sneak a peek later that night. When it emerges, it smells like a royal wedding at a spice bazaar. Golden rice spills from the goat's stitched belly, and the aroma is divine. Back at your own station, you return to kebabs. Your final ones are even confident. You arrange them on a plate and sprinkle them with lime. Koki tastes one, nods once. You didn't ruin it. High praise. And as you clean the cutting boards, wipe down the bone cleavers, and wash your hands with ash and lemon peel, you realize something else. Meat in the Mughal kitchen wasn't just food. It was status, story, identity. The emperor might speak through proclamations, but he whispers through his roast. And you're starting to learn the language. The sun today isn't kind. It glares down like a scolding ant, making everything feel louder, sharper, heavier. You've been assigned to the chutney wallas. Yes, there's an entire team devoted just to chutneys, relishes, dips, and sauces. You didn't know that yesterday. You wish you still didn't, because chopping green chili at dawn is a uniquely personal betrayal. Your eyes are streaming. Don't rub, says a wiry old woman with a nose ring shaped like a peacock. Blink through the pain. Let the chutney baptize you. You blink. You suffer. You survive. Sort of. The chutney crew works in the far northeast wing of the palace kitchens, tucked behind the herb gardens. That's intentional because everything they need grows within reach. Mint, coriander, green, mango, tulsi, tamarind, chile, curry leaves, garlic, even stone apple. This isn't cooking. This is alchemy. You watch as one of the boys no older than 10 pounds green mango and chili with salt on a flat granite slab, until it becomes a fiery, tangy paste the color of rebellion. He hands you a dab on a fig leaf. You taste it and briefly see every poor decision you've ever made. It's exquisite. But this is only the start. You soon learn that Mughal chutneys weren't just condiments. They were statements. Sentences whispered between courses. A chutney could signal flirtation, favor, irritation, even insult. Serve a cool yogurt mint chutney to someone you respected. Give a raw garlic one to someone you didn't. Historians still argue whether certain chutney styles were regional imports or evolved within the Mughal courts themselves. Some believe the spiced tamarind chutney was adapted from Bengali sweet-sour relishes, while others insist it began here on the slab, under this very neem tree. You don't care. You're too busy trying not to lose a fingertip to a lime. Today's project: a chutney trio for the emperor's second cousin, who's visiting from Kabul and famously hates sour things. You're told to help with a cool plate: 1 yogurt cucumber chutney with roasted cumin, 1 ground coriander pistachio paste, and 1 Waitrose pomegranate with jaggery. You're skeptical. Koki appears, of course, holding a silver tasting spoon and a look that says, "Try me." You follow the recipe. Grind the roasted cumin by hand. Mash the cucumber. Add a pinch of crushed black salt, just enough to awaken it. Fold it into thick yogurt, not too runny. Koki tastes, less cucumber. More salt. Stir with your left hand next time. You don't ask why. The coriander pistachio one is stranger. You blend fresh leaves with nuts, oil, and lime until it turns an aggressive green. Make it taste like a garden, someone mutters behind you. You throw in a mint leaf for luck. By midday, your hands are green. Your arms ache. And your station smells like a field after a thunderstorm. But your trio is plated. The second cousin eats in private chambers, and you don't get to see his face. But you do see the bowl come back empty. Later, someone passes you a note, written on banana leaf. The garden chutney was ... acceptable. You frame it in your mind like a painting. But chutney isn't always gentle. You're sent next to the fire table, where chili and garlic rule. This is where the dangerous chutneys live, the kinds that make a general weep and a princess curse. A thick black garlic relish. A smoked chili paste mixed with tamarind pulp and jaggery. And something so red, so angry looking, it practically growls. You ask what it is? Revenge, someone says. Apparently, it was invented during a feud between two concubines. One sent it as a gift. The other got hiccups for 3 days straight. You taste a speck on the tip of your tongue. You lose feeling in your teeth. But it's oddly, wonderful, deep, complicated, like the aftertaste of a beautiful fight. You also discover dry chutneys, a whole other world. These aren't sauces, these are powders. Blends of roasted lentils, seeds, curry leaves, dried mango, and chili, ground into a dust that you sprinkle like magic. You taste a toasted sesame coconut one with jaggery and salt. Your mouth doesn't know whether to dance or cry. One old woman shows you a chutney so fine it's kept in a silk pouch, not a jar. She calls it hawa ka ak, pickle of the wind. She taps your nose with her floury finger and whispers, "You don't chew it, you feel it." She's not wrong. The next day, Koki shows you a chart scrawled on parchment, mapping out a royal banquet's chutney path. Yes, a path. Each course had its own chutney pairing, like wine. Cool with rich food, sweet with bitter dishes, fiery with soft meats, and always something tart near the end to wake you up just before dessert. You laugh, then you remember how the emperor once paused a banquet to ask, "Where is the third chutney?" and how two cooks were reassigned to goat bath duty after that. You take it seriously now. You help prepare chutney for a biryani course. This one must be bold mint to cut through the richness of saffron rice and meat. You choose coriander, raw onion, lime, and green chili. You blend it too smoothly. Koki frowns. "Rougher," she says. "It needs a little anger." You try again. Better. And then for dessert chutneys, there are dessert chutneys. You help make one with tamarind, dried fig, jaggery, rosewater, and a whisper of clove. It tastes like a secret, slow and sticky, almost romantic. It's served alongside milk dumplings. A court poet eats it and sighs so deeply he has to be helped to bed. Koki leans in and mutters, "That's why we don't serve chutney to the astrologer anymore." That night, as you clean chutney stones and oil jars, you realize something strange. No dish in the Mughal kitchen is complete on its own. Even the grandest roast, the richest pulao, the sweetest kiornen of them stand alone. They need a contrast, a companion, a sharpness, a wake-up whisper. That's the chutney, and in some odd way, maybe that's you too. The sky is bruised with clouds this morning, and thunder rolls somewhere far off, like a sleepy giant shifting in bed. Inside the kitchen, it's quieter than usual, tense, like everyone's waiting for something. You soon find out what it is. A delivery has arrived. But not just any delivery. Today, the Mughal kitchen is receiving its imports, the treasures from beyond the empire's borders. Silks, yes. Pearls, yes. But more importantly, ingredients. And these aren't just saffron threads and cinnamon bark. These are the high-stakes imports brought by camel, caravan, boat, and bribery. Some legal, some not so much. You watch as chests are pried open under Koki's watchful eye. One contains dried morel mushrooms from Kashmir, dark, wrinkled, and precious. Another, impossibly fragrant rose petals from Shiraz. A third, stuffed with tiny, glistening black pearls. You lean in? Not pearls. Black cardamom, heavier, smokier, bolder than its green cousin. It smells like the edge of a winter campfire. Use too much, Koki says, and the emperor will think you're feeding him smoked leather. Noted. A smaller crate arrives next, cradled like it contains the emperor's baby. Inside, 2 vials of ambergris, the stuff from whales. Yes, it smells, but when diluted just right, it's said to enhance desserts and perfumes alike. You raise an eyebrow? Koki shrugs. The Portuguese swear by it. Have they tasted it? Of course not. That would be uncouth. You snort, then peer into another crate. Inside, cloves from Zanzibar, nutmeg from the Banda Islands, and a tiny pouch of long pepper. Like regular black pepper, but taller, meaner, with a taste that smacks you first and apologizes later. You're told the emperor likes it in his early morning stew. Something about waking the blood. You can't imagine anything less appealing than pepper in your porridge, but you don't say that aloud. What you do say is, "So, where does it all come from?" Koki smiles. And that's how you learn the Mughal kitchen isn't just a palace kitchen. It's a port, a crossroads, a borderless empire made of spices. Ships from Gujarat bring tamarind and coconuts. Caravans from Samarkand carry dried apricots and melons. From China come tea bricks and Sichuan pepper. From the Deccan, black stone flour and earthy, smoky lichen that smells like rain and ruins. You taste it once. Your tongue feels like it visited a cave. Even the chilies, a newcomer, a foreigner, brought by the Portuguese only a few generations ago. Imagine that. The red fire you've been chopping for weeks. Imported. Historians still argue whether Mughal cuisine was truly Indian, or a Persian-Turkic-Portuguese hybrid adopted by brilliant, hungry men. Some say the food was local, only glamorized. Others believe it was built, like the empire, through assimilation and ambition. You think it doesn't matter, because what's in the pot is real, and it works. Take the story of kush grat, the dry flatbread stuffed with spices and almonds. It was inspired by Turkish recipes, but reshaped with local wheat and saffron. Or yakni, the clear meat broth perfected in Persia, but now simmered with Indian bay leaf, rock salt, and a hint of pandan. And then there's quince. Yes, quince. You find some in a basket wrapped in damp cloth. Golden, bruised, sour-sweet. It smells like autumn in a forgotten orchard. You help prepare it for a slow-cooked fruit stew. The recipe calls for sugar, rosewater, and just a suggestion of clove. The result is something between a dessert and a sigh. It's served cold, in silver bowls, 2 noblewomen who've recently returned from pilgrimage. A gesture of grace. You're told that quince once came from Central Asia, but now grows in hidden gardens across Kashmir. A fruit of many homes, like the empire itself. That night, you assist with the Navratan korma-rich dish, named after the 9 gems of the emperor's court. The korma reflects that. 9 ingredients, 9 flavors, 9 textures. You cube paneer, roast cashews, peel grapes, dice apples, fry carrots, soak raisins, toast lotus seeds, mash boiled yam, and finally add silver leaf. Literal silver. You press it gently onto the surface of the dish with the back of a spoon. It shimmers like moonlight on milk. Eat your privilege, Koki mutters. You do. It tastes expensive. The kitchen, you realize, is a map. Not one drawn on paper, but one sizzled into clay pots, steeped into sauces, smoked over coal. Every dish has a direction. Every ingredient has a story. Like the Mirki Kasalina chili and sesame curry from Hyderabad that suddenly made its way onto the emperor's plate. No one knows why. Some say a concubine requested it. Others whisper that a royal astrologer saw it in a dream. You help grind the sesame seeds. Add the curry leaves. Stir slowly. The chili bubbles up red, threatening. And yet, the taste is round, nutty, almost calm. You smile. Another dish, another journey. Later, Mintu tells you about the emperor's fascination with Portuguese sweets. He once demanded a version of Dinat's Tho's egg custard tarts. The result, Andi Kahawa rich, egg-based pudding, now considered purely Indian. You ask Mintu if he's ever seen the emperor eat. He shakes his head. No one sees him eat. but everyone sees what he orders next. And that's how you know a dish succeeded. It reappears, gets copied, spreads, even into rival courts, and through the kitchens of nobles, and eventually into homes. You wonder, will your coriander chutney live that long? Probably not. But maybe your rice pilaf will. Before you sleep that night, you sneak into the spice room one last time, just to look. The jars glow in the lamplight. Saffron from Herat, mace from Malabar, dried limes from Hormuz. You lift a jar of long pepper and smell it again. Still mean, still wonderful. You leave the jar, you whisper goodnight, and you dream of a table that stretches across oceans, covered in dishes, each one telling a story, each one still warm. You wake to rain. Not a drizzle, but a proper monsoon tantrum, the kind that pounds rooftops, soaks through stone, and turns palace courtyards into slick marble skating rinks. And while most people retreat into warm corners with cardamom chai, you have been summoned. To the dessert room, yes, it's real. Yes, you're excited. And yes, there's already sugar on your nose. The dessert room, or mithakana, is tucked deep into the palace's east wing, far from the noise of butchers and chutney grinders. The air here is different, warm, buttery, scented like roasted milk and rose petals. Everything glows, even the aprons. Your first job: stir a massive copper pot of rabri, that glorious, slow-cooked milk. Pudding thickened over hours and flavored with saffron, cardamom, and slivers of almond. You stir, and then you stir again. Because rabri waits for no one, and the only thing worse than a burnt bottom is a kitchen full of nobles. Eating scorched dessert and pretending not to taste the betrayal. A lady named Noor watches over your shoulder. She's the size of a thimble, but commands the room like a general. When she speaks, everyone listens. When she samples, everyone holds their breath. Noor takes one spoonful of your rabri and closes her eyes. Needs a memory? You blink. What does that mean? She pats your cheek. Add a pinch of nostalgia. Rosewater, just a drop. You obey, and she's right. Now it tastes like a monsoon lullaby. The desert crew is different from the others. Less shouting, more humming. Everything here is patient, precise. Syrupy. You're introduced to Gavara honeycomb-like dessert made during festivals. It's crispy, soaked in sugar syrup and crowned with silver foil. Making it requires hot oil, cold batter, and nerves of steel. It comes out looking like a fried sandal. You try again. Better? By the third attempt, Noor nods. You're getting the drip right. Later, you help shape gulab jamunos, famous milk-solid dumplings soaked in rose-flavored syrup. The key, you learn, isn't just in the frying. It's in the soak. No rushing, says Noor. Let them absorb, like hearts after heartbreak. You wonder if she's speaking metaphorically, but she walks away before you can ask. As you plate the gulab jamun, a story drifts your way about the emperor's youngest son. Apparently, he once fell in love with a kitchen girl, not for her eyes, or wit, or laugh, but for her rice pudding. Every Thursday, he'd sneak into the mithakana, disguised as a helper, just to taste it fresh. Then one day, he stopped coming. No one knows why. But the girl's kheer recipe still hangs on the wall, written in henna on a piece of cotton. You touch the edge gently. The ink has faded, but the measurements remain. Rice, milk, sugar, patience, a whisper of cardamom, and silence. Always silence. Historians still argue whether that recipe was the origin of modern Shahi Kiyah or just a romantic legend whispered between pastry trays. But in the mithakana, truth and sugar often melt into one another. Your next challenge is making sohan halwa, dense, chewy confection made from sprouted wheat, ghee, sugar, and nuts. It's the kind of sweet that breaks teeth and heals hearts. It takes hours. You stir it until your arms shake, until the mixture goes from pale beige to deep amber, until the ghee begins to separate like golden oil over lava. You press it into trays and stamp it with delicate patterns using wooden molds. It smells like temples and weddings. You taste a corner, and suddenly, you remember the first time you ate a sweet too fast and burned your tongue. Now you understand why Noor says sugar carries memory. You help make sharbats too cool. Syrupy drinks served in cut glass goblets. Rose, sandalwood, kora, even spiced pomegranate. Each is a mood, a temperature, a poem in liquid. One guest requests a drink that tastes like rain on red sandstone. Noor hands him a basil lime sharbat with a frozen rosebud floating on top. He doesn't question it. Another asks for something to help with digestive misfortunes. You're handed a black salt-laced tamarind sharbat so fierce it could resuscitate a collapsed mule. It works. And then comes Malayo. Oh, Malayo, you don't make it. You find it? It only appears during the coldest mornings, made by letting dew collect on milk foam overnight until it becomes a golden cloud, light as breath, eaten with a spoon or a sigh. You're told it was once considered sacred, fit only for emperors and children. Noor lets you taste a spoonful. It vanishes on your tongue like a dream you barely remember. You wipe your eyes, maybe from joy, maybe from sugar. Later that day, the emperor's birthday feast is prepared. And dessert? Oh, dessert gets the finale. You help arrange faluda cold vermicelli noodles in rose milk, topped with soaked basil seeds, ice, and almond slivers. It looks like a galaxy in a bowl. Tastes like a secret cousin of milkshake and perfume. Then comes jalebi, twisted into golden spirals, fried and dunked in hot syrup. It crackles in your hand. You burn your tongue again. Worth it. Even candied betel nuts are passed around like edible jewels. And Maraba sweet preserves of quince, apple, even winter melon served, with tiny spoons shaped like peacock feathers. And finally, Shahi Tukta, the crown jewel. Fried bread soaked in syrup, topped with saffron rabri, and adorned with crushed pistachios. You help build the trays, layering each piece like laying bricks in a palace of sugar. Koki enters, nods, and says softly, "Do not breathe on this. It's being sent to his mother." You hold your breath. Place the last almond sliver, step back. And in that moment, you realize, this isn't just a dessert kitchen. It's a cathedral built from ghee, run on memory, and held together with sugar. Thunder has passed, but the kitchens hum with a different kind of electricity now. The royal medicine man has arrived. He's not wearing robes or waving herbs in the air. He's quiet, soft-voiced, and smells faintly of turmeric and sandalwood. They call him Hakim Jalil, and he doesn't heal with needles or leeches. He heals with lunch. Yes, you've entered the strange, steaming world of the Mughal culinary pharmacy where food is medicine, and every meal is a prescription. Koki meets him at the door with a raised eyebrow and a ladle in hand. "You better not ask us to boil fenugreek again." He just smiles. No fenugreek today, just calming things. The emperor, apparently, has been experiencing a disturbed humoral balance. Too much fire, not enough coolness, or maybe too much goat stew. Depends on who you ask. And so, you're pulled from Gulab Jamun duty and dropped squarely into food therapy. You begin with the basics. Warm milk, gently infused with cardamom, a strand of saffron, and a little ghee. It's served before sunrise with a drop of almond oil, meant to settle the nerves and cool the liver. Next, a rice and lentil dish called khichdi. But this isn't the peasant's khichdi. This is imperial, medicinal khichdi. Made with equal parts patience and cumin, it's soft, soupy, and tinted the color of humility. No chili, Jalil instructs. The emperor's dreams are already too loud. You stir slowly. Later, you help with a pomegranate stew, tangy, sweet, and meant to balance the bile. You didn't know bile needed balancing, but apparently it's crucial. The stew is paired with barley flatbreads and a salad of pickled rose petals and coriander. You try a bite. It tastes like a garden is quietly forgiving you. And then you're handed a pot of gooseberry tonic. It's thick, tart, and honey sweet, said to restore memory, brighten skin, and help one forget unfortunate poetry. Mintu snorts. The emperor needs that last part. Apparently, he's taken 2 writing couplets again, but this is no joke. You begin to realize just how deeply intertwined medicine and cuisine were in this world. The Hakim isn't just a healer, he's a flavor whisperer, a master of temperament and texture. He believes cold foods calm hot minds and warm spices awaken sleepy livers. Historians still argue whether this philosophy came from Persian Unani medicine, ancient Ayurvedic systems, or a hybrid adapted for Mughal palates. Some insist it was pseudoscience, others say it was genius. But as you watch an elder prince sip warm tamarind broth and visibly relax, you begin to think, maybe food is a kind of alchemy. You help prepare Herrera warming, fortifying stew made with lentils, meat, and spices. Often served during fasting periods or after illness, it's considered both sacred and practical. This version uses goat, crushed almonds, rosewater, and a dusting of cinnamon. It tastes like strength-wearing velvet. Jalil nods approvingly. You then assist with making kanji, a fermented drink made from black carrots, mustard seeds, and chili. It's sour, spicy, and apparently excellent for the blood. You take a sip, you briefly forget your name, but your headache disappears. Later, you help prepare a sweet from Jalil's own notes. Dried date paste with almond, poppy seeds, and fennel. Rolled into small balls, they're handed out to sleepy guards and moody musicians, said to sharpen the mind and sweeten the voice. Koki pops one in her mouth. Still angry. Jalil raises an eyebrow. I said sweeten, not change. Then comes the more unusual requests. One noblewoman wants a cake made with powdered pearls, ghee, and basil. For her complexion, someone explains. Another requests candied fennel to settle unwanted thoughts. You help prepare the Rue Afsa syrup of rose, cura, vetiver, and herbs, mixed with cold water and served at dusk. It's cooling, dreamy, and said to prevent emotional overheating. You wonder if you can bathe in it. A guest from Kabul insists on chicken broth with quince and fig for digestion and poetic rhythm. You dice the fruit carefully. You listen to the poetry. You do not comment. And then comes the strangest recipe yet. A stew made with mutton, yogurt, garlic, and powdered sapphire. Yes, sapphire. You stare at the bowl. Jalil notices and murmurs. The emperor believes it wards off envy. You whisper, "Isn't that expensive?" He smiles. So is envy. Fair, not everything is edible though. You help make Uptana body scrub of chickpea flour, turmeric, milk, and sandalwood. It's not food, technically, but you kind of want to eat it anyway. It smells like comfort. Used during royal baths, it's supposed to detoxify the body and prepare the soul for celebration. You watch as it's packaged into silk sachets, tied with gold thread, and sent to the women's wing. Meanwhile, a prince demands something to fix the ache behind his left eye and his third bad poem of the week. Jalil prescribes him spiced pear compote with saffron and a nap. No one argues. At sunset, you help brew a final potion. Saffron almond milk, thickened with rice flour and sweetened with jaggery. Served warm with crushed black pepper. Why the pepper, you ask? To keep the dreams awake, Jalil says. You think you misheard him. But later, lying in your cot, you taste the dream. It smells of milk and cardamom, of herbs and whispers, stories told in sips, of a world where every ingredient has a purpose and a cure. And as sleep pulls you under, gently this time, you wonder, Maybe every kitchen is a pharmacy, and every cook just a healer in disguise. Morning comes not with birdsong, but with drums, soft ones, steady, echoing down the palace halls. Koki smirks when she hears them. Ah, the astrologers have chosen today. You blink. For what? She hands you a tray of fresh lemons and tamarind. For the great feast. You pause. That sounds dramatic. It is, she says. It's the Emperor's celestial offering. Happens once a year. Food arranged not for appetite, but for the stars. You don't ask questions. You follow the lemons. Because today, everything you thought you knew about food is about to unravel like an overstuffed samosa. Welcome to the Cosmic Kitchen. Here, the menu isn't decided by hunger or season. It's decided by planetary alignment. And according to the astrologers, today, Venus and Jupiter are having a polite brunch in the eastern sky. Mars is sulking somewhere behind the clouds, and Saturn, well, he's always moody. And the result? A dish plan that reads more like a prayer than a recipe. You begin with yellow foods, auspicious under Jupiter. You zest lemons, peel mangoes, dice turmeric pickled radish, and stew lentils until they glisten like topaz. Every color, they say, carries a frequency, a mood, a planet's personality. White rice for peace, red pomegranate for courage, blue lotus root for the unknowable. You help prepare Navaratna Dala 9-lentil stew meant to honor the 9 planets. It takes 5 hours, 3 kitchen hands, and the patience of a saint. Each lentil is soaked separately, cooked separately, then blended carefully, like composing a poem without any bad metaphors. The spices, too, are chosen not just for taste, but for balance. Too much chili. Mars gets restless. Too much sugar. Venus starts flirting with the wrong signs. Historians still argue whether Mughal astrology ever truly influenced court menus, or whether this was more ceremonial flair than daily fact. Some say Akbar genuinely fasted according to lunar phases. Others think his cooks simply told him they did. Either way, today, the food obeys the stars. You assist in carving root vegetables into specific shapes: lotus for purity, crescent moons for wisdom, suns for clarity. The kitchen looks like a very fragrant geometry class. There's saffron rice shaped into constellations, jasmine sweets formed into miniature full moons. Even the dessert, a thick kheer made with basmati milk and ghee, is sprinkled with 7 nuts for 7 heavens. Noor, of course, oversees the sweet planets. She paints sugar orbs with natural dyes: beetroot red, indigo from butterfly pea flower, silver from edible foil. You ask what they represent. She leans in close and whispers, "Don't ask, just chew." Meanwhile, Koki supervises the celestial breads. Flatbreads etched with symbols, filled ones folded like paper fortunes. Flaky layers meant to represent the layers of the universe. You're put in charge of a rice tower, a dish composed of 4 layers, each a different flavor: turmeric, cumin, mint, saffron and rose, mint and tamarind, and plain jasmine. As you stack the steaming rice, a small boy drops a spoon beside you and mutters, "If it topples, Saturn wins." You don't blink. You build it like your future depends on it, because maybe it does. You also help with a dish you've never seen before: Gully Bahar, flower of spring, a salad of seasonal greens, rose petals, pickled carrots, and toasted fennel seeds, meant to calm the stomach and the sky. Noor spritzes it with rose water and dusts the petals with sugar. You eat 1 bite. Row. You understand why flowers were once currency. There's Kamal Kakti, Sabzalotus stem curry sliced into star patterns, Ponley fritters stuffed with jaggery and sesame, a broth made from white pumpkin and vetiver, said to cleanse past regrets. You sip a spoonful. Your 12-year-old haircut flashes before your eyes and vanishes. In the corner, Mintu's working on Zard Pulo saffron rice with raisins, cashews, and candied orange peel. The fragrance is enough to convert a pessimist. He turns to you and says, "Today's food isn't for the stomach." You ask, "Then what?" He taps his chest. "It's for the inside." By late afternoon, the platters are arranged in a specific order. Lightest colors first, heaviest flavors last. The astrologers approve the geometry. The food is laid out on silk runners, on silver thalas, under a skylight where the stars are expected to gather at twilight. No one eats right away. Not until the chants finish. Not until the priests whisper. Not until the emperor nods once, and then a single fig is placed in his palm. He eats it. The feast begins. The guests eat slowly. Reverently, they chew in silence as if each bite might change their fate. Maybe it does, because something happens when food aligns with belief. It becomes more than nourishment. It becomes navigation. And you. You sit by the kitchen door, your hands sticky with rose syrup, your nails stained with turmeric, your heart unusually full. You helped feed the sky. Later that evening, after the silver platters are cleared and the candles flicker down to waxy ghosts, Koki finds you by the lemon crates. "You did well," she says, casually. "Only one astrologer cried. That's a record." You grin. She hands you a bowl of saffron milk and says nothing more. You sip it slowly. You close your eyes. And for a moment, just a moment, you feel completely aligned. Inside, outside, sweet, salty, fire, water, you, the sky, and a bowl of warm, spiced milk in between. You didn't think it was possible, but the kitchen is even quieter than yesterday. No drum beats, no shouting. Even Koki isn't barking at anyone. Just a soft, careful hush, like the whole palace is holding its breath. You glance around and catch whispers. "It's her day," someone says. She's watching. And you remember. Today is Empress Daya, rare occasion when the emperor's chief wife takes full command of the Mughal kitchen. Not to eat, to cook. Not just any meal either. She's preparing her ancestral recipe, passed down from a Rajput queen who once stirred pots over sacred fires and made curries that could stop wars or start them. No one knows exactly what it is, but everyone knows one thing. You do not mess it up. You're summoned earlier than usual, handed a starched apron, and assigned to the grind station, a task that sounds simple until you realize the masala mix includes 17 spices, hand-ground and measured by scent alone. The Empress arrives mid-morning. She doesn't glide, moves purposefully, gracefully, like someone used to making decisions that echo through walls. She wears no jewels. It's just a linen scarf and a scent of sandalwood. Her hands are henna'd, her eyes sharp. Her presence is unsettling. Even Koki straightens her spine. The Empress tastes a chutney someone made and says, "It's lovely." The cook nearly faints. You wonder if she's really going to cook or if this is symbolic. Then she rolls up her sleeves and starts peeling garlic, and the kitchen exhales. Because this isn't a performance, this is real. The dish she's making is called Rasa Donya Tarkaria vegetable curry with a spiced broth. Made from roasted coconut, sesame seeds, mustard, curry leaves, and tamarind. The name roughly translates to flavors of wealth and blessing. It's not royal in the way that silver-leafed kebabs are. It's royal in the way that memory is. The Empress instructs you to start on the coconut. Roast it until it just begins to change color, she says. Not brown. Golden. You obey. Then she adds the sesame seeds and mustard. Toasts them lightly. Grinds them by hand. She asks for curry leaves. You bring a handful. She chooses 3. Too many, and the curry becomes cocky. You never thought of food having a personality before, but now you can't stop. When she adds the tamarind pulp, the whole mixture turns a deep rust, color earthy, vibrant, alive. She stirs slowly, humming something under her breath. You're not supposed to ask questions, but your curiosity wins. Is it your mother's recipe? She smiles, gently. It was hers, and hers, and hers, all the way back to a queen who married a king and brought nothing with her except a pot and a promise. You don't ask what the promise was, you just keep stirring. Later, she kneels beside the tandoor, not to command, but to bake small rotis, thinner than silk, puffed with steam, painted with ghee. You offer to help. She lets you. Your first one burns. She doesn't say a word. Your second one puffs like a balloon. She smiles. You feel like you've just passed an exam no one told you you were taking. Meanwhile, other dishes begin to emerge. Her personal Kadea yogurt-based stew with turmeric and fried dumplings. A lemon rice so delicate you can smell each grain before it touches your tongue. And something called sanj ki da literally, the evening lentil slow-cooked with cumin, bay leaf, and cloves. Meant to be eaten at sunset, with bare feet and no noise. Even the dessert is modest. Just Kaiser Dude saffron milk, boiled thrice, sweetened with jaggery, and cooled under a silk cloth embroidered with the word Shanti, peace. That's the word floating through the kitchen today. Not power, not opulence, just peace. At noon, the Empress gathers the cooks, you among them. She speaks softly, but every ear tilts toward her. This meal is not for politics, not for the emperor, not for the priests or the generals or the guests. She looks around. This meal is for women, and those who remember them. She raises her bowl, and for the hands that do not write history but feed it. The room is silent. Nor wipes her eye. Even Koki sniffs. Then, slowly, you all eat together. No hierarchy, no scolding. Just spoons and silence. You taste the rasa danya tarkari. It's warm, sour, complex, gentle, fiery, like a memory you didn't know you missed. Someone says, this tastes like being forgiven. Someone else replies, this tastes like my grandmother's kitchen. You don't say anything, you just eat. Later, as the Empress prepares to leave, she walks past you, pauses, says, the coconut was perfect. You beam. You bow. You don't wash your hands for hours. That night, you find yourself replaying her words in your mind. Not just the compliments, but the idea of hands that feed history. Because it's true. No royal feast happens without burned fingers and blistered palms. No spice mix exists without someone grinding it through exhaustion. And no empire stands without someone, somewhere, stirring rice. And maybe you think, when they talk about royal legacy, they should talk about this. The recipes passed quietly between sisters. The chutneys whispered between mothers and daughters. The rotis flipped by women whose names were never carved into marble, but whose food is still remembered on tongues 3 generations later. Maybe that's the real royal script, written in turmeric, and cinnamon, and thyme. Smoke curls from the copper pots like a slow-moving prayer. You stir gently, trying not to cough. Day's spices are aggressive. It's the funeral feast, Mintu says quietly. You blink. Who's an old general? One of the emperor's mentors. And suddenly, everything makes sense. The muted colors, the silence, the absence of shouting. But the kitchen is still moving. In fact, faster than ever. Because when someone important dies in the Mughal court, the last tribute isn't gold or poetry, it's food. A final plate, a memory, preserved in saffron and ghee. Today, that memory is made from lamb and grief. You're handed a bowl of shabdaga stew, slow-cooked overnight with turnips, meat, and a tight lid sealed with dough. It's deep and rich and dark, like sadness translated into flavor. You lift the lid, steam blooms. Don't breathe too fast, Koki warns. That's sorrow. Give it space. You nod, oddly reverent. It smells like smoke and cloves, and something buried beneath it, all ginger, maybe, or remembrance. Elsewhere, you help slice dried apricots for a rice dish called Zard Biryani, a funeral-only variant, laced with sweet fruit. cardamom, and broken almonds. It's beautiful, but restrained, regal, but soft. Grief doesn't need volume, just clarity. You learn that every major Mughal household kept a log of death dishes recipes tied to specific passings. One prince loved fennel sweets. A poet was sent off with goat curry and lotus stem. These meals aren't eaten for pleasure. They're eaten for continuity. So the living remember. So the kitchen keeps going. Historians still argue whether these funeral recipes came from Central Asian rites, Indian ancestral customs, or new traditions forged in the empire's melting pot. Some say they were deeply religious. Others claim they were just protocol dressed up in saffron. But as you stir that pot of rice, you know it's more than protocol. You've tasted joy in this kitchen. This is the first time you taste grief. There's also mutangina, sticky, caramelized rice dish made with sugar, ghee, and slivers of orange peel. It's served with plain yogurt and a single date. Noor tells you it's meant to remind mourners of sweetness. But only a little, she adds. Too much, and it's disrespectful. You eat a spoonful in silence. You think of your own memories, your own ghosts. The feast isn't just for family, it's for the staff too. Every servant who once carried that general's tray, every guard who bowed when he passed, every cook who heard him praise a kebab once and never forgot, everyone receives a bowl. This isn't a command, it's belonging. You help prepare Solemnity Chai light, spiced tea with lime and a touch of honey, said to soothe the throat after tears, and the heart if it's willing. It's passed around in clay cups. No gold, no silver, just hands, some trembling. You hear an old servant murmur, "He always said pepper should bite, not bark." No one laughs, but someone nods. You help grill Banyan Ka Barti's smoky mashed eggplant with garlic and mustard oil. It was the general's favorite humble dish, despite the palace's protest. Today, it's the centerpiece. You think? Maybe the true measure of a man is the food he missed when no one was watching. Later, trays are carried into the gardens, laid under canopies of white silk. No music, just wind. And footsteps. One by one, guests place a pinch of saffron on a central dish, the memory platter. A biryani, unlike any other, filled with ingredients from every region the general traveled. Kashmiri, cinnamon, Bengal rice, Deccan lamb, Persian raisins. You helped prepare it. You don't even remember how. It just happened. Hands moved, spoons stirred. Grief cooked. After the meal, nothing is cleaned, not yet. The pots are left to rest. The stoves burn low. You sit in a corner with a cup of warm milk and fennel, and you think, maybe kitchens are memory vaults, more than mausoleums. Because we forget what people wore, what they said, but not the taste of the kia they liked, not the smell of the curry they praised, not the shape of the bread they broke with us. And in this way, food becomes the last invitation. A table set for someone who isn't here anymore, but who lives in the recipe, in the spices, in the hush that follows the last ladle. Later, when the stars return and the palace exhales, you light a single coal under the last pot of mutangin, just to keep it warm, just in case. Because, maybe, just maybe, the dead get hungry too. The morning starts with a surprise, a letter, folded into fourths, tucked under a jar of coriander seeds, smelling faintly of ghee and cardamom. You unfold it with sticky fingers. It's from the emperor's personal steward. You're being summoned, not to serve, to present, a dish of your choosing, for a special gathering of poets, scholars, generals, and the emperor himself. You reread the letter 3 times, then sit down very, very slowly. Mintu finds you like that, eyes wide, apron crooked. Finally, he says, your mouth is open for once, and it's not because you're chewing. Koki looks up from her spice tray. Make something honest, she says. Noor doesn't even look at you. She just tosses a clove into her boiling syrup and mutters, "No pressure." So now the question hangs in the air like steam over a rice pot. What do you cook when the world is watching? You could make korma or shahi tukta, or something so gilded in silver and saffron that people think you're trying to bribe the zodiac. But instead, you go back to the first thing you ever tasted in this kitchen, the coriander chutney. You remember its sting, its freshness, its hum. You pair it with something simple, the spiced rice version of khichdi, but layered, with cinnamon, toasted cumin, slivered mango, a dish that speaks many dialects. You call it memory pilaf. The day of the gathering arrives with sun-speckled courtyards and the scent of roasted almonds drifting from the halls. The guests arrive in waves, a historian who smells of ink, a warrior who limps but still moves like thunder, a poet who keeps sighing and fiddling with his sherwani buttons. And then, finally, the emperor. He doesn't look how you imagined. Less glitter, more gravity, tired eyes, kind mouth. You stand in the presentation hall with your tray, heart galloping. Your dish sits in a silver bowl, no garnish except a sprig of coriander and one folded pan leaf beside it. A quiet offering. He tastes, chews, pauses, and asks, "Whose recipe?" You want to say yours, but you say, "Everyone's." And he smiles. Just once. Enough. The steward records the recipe. It will be copied, shared, perhaps renamed, perhaps forgotten, but for now, it's real, and yours. After the gathering, the kitchen isn't the same. You're not the new one anymore. You're the one who made the emperor nod. Mintu lets you stir his dal without protest, nor gives you her jaggery stash just for safekeeping. Koki, though, says nothing. But one night, she leaves a clay pot at your bedside. Inside, rabri, still warm. You sleep well, because something in you has shifted. You've chopped, stirred, cried, sneezed through spice clouds, survived roasting pans and recipe disasters. You've fed grief and celebration. You've cooked for the stars, and now for history. And you know you'll leave this kitchen someday. But its recipes will stay inside you, not just in your hands, in your bones. Because food is the empire that follows you home. And the Mughal kitchen. It's no longer just stone walls and copper pots. It's a story that ends on your tongue and begins with your breath. Now, as we begin to slow down, imagine yourself standing once more in that ancient Mughal kitchen. The fires are low. The copper pots have cooled. Spices rest in their jars, their scents softening with the night air. A gentle hum floats in from the courtyard, maybe the echo of a lute, or just the wind playing through carved marble. You walk past rows of clay jars, through the hallway of brass utensils, and out onto the terrace where the stars peek through the clouds like curious old friends. In your hands is a bowl of warm milk, touched with saffron and crushed almonds. Its sweetness, gentle, its warmth, comforting. You sit, cross-legged, barefoot on cool stone, and you remember the sounds, the laughter from the pickle makers, the crackle of frying jalebi, the silence after a perfect spoonful. These memories are no longer just stories, they're part of you. Your fingers know the rhythm of kneading dough. Your nose can still catch that first waft of roasting cumin, and your heart carries the quiet pride of having cooked something beautiful in a place built from empires and smoke and dreams. So now, as you lay your head down, let the scents fade. Let the pots cool. Let the kitchen go to sleep, one gentle exhale at a time. You've done well. You've tasted history. You've fed the past. And now, it's time to rest. Sleep softly, dear cook. The stove will still be warm when you return.